We're often told that the HR team is there to support us, that they are the neutral ground where issues can get resolved. But what if you take a serious matter to HR, maybe bullying, maybe harassment, maybe an unfair workload, and you're met with silence? What happens when you realise that that ground isn't neutral at all? What happens when you're told that you're being too sensitive, or even worse, that you're told that you are the problem? Today, I want to have a bit of a reality check. We need to talk about the hard truth that HR's role is to protect the employer from risk, not necessarily to protect the employee from the employer. If you're currently in survival mode and feeling like you're completely on your own, then this video is for you. We're going to cover how to protect yourself, how to set boundaries, and how to maintain your dignity when the system isn't on your side. And if you're new here, you're more than welcome. My name's Lucy, welcome to the channel, and I'm on a mission to help people survive and thrive in the world of work and to help leaders be the kind of people that they'd really love to work for. So let's crack on. Now, one thing I want to be really clear about right up front, I've been lucky enough to work with some truly wonderful HR colleagues over the years, people who truly care, who went into HR because they truly care about people. I also happen to believe, perhaps naively, that the well-being of an organisation is completely intertwined with the well-being of its staff. So that risk I mentioned earlier about HR's role being to protect the employer from risk is completely intertwined with protecting its staff from risk as well. They're not different things in my view. But like I say, maybe I'm naive. I can't ignore the hundreds, if not thousands of comments telling me that this simply isn't the case. For too many of you, HR has become some sort of gatekeeper of the status quo. If you're feeling ignored, it could be that the HR team has assessed the risk of your complaint versus the risk of acting on your complaint and somehow decided that the one outweighs the other, so that's why they're not acting. It feels cold and it feels lonely, but maybe understanding HR as a corporate function that's not really there to save you will help you protect yourself and to move forward, and that's what I'm going to try to cover today. You can stop waiting for them to save you and start saving yourself and moving forward. Before we get into the how-to of protecting yourself, I wanted to just to do a little bit of a perspective shift as well, something else I've really been thinking about. It can be very easy to cast HR as the villain of the piece, while forgetting that they are employees too. So in a broken system, it's hard for them maybe to stand up to the leadership of an organisation. They are operating in the same ecosystem that you are. They have the same leadership team. They are breathing the same corporate air. And often they are under the same pressure to toe the line. I've known many HR professionals who've gone into that career because they truly care about people, only to find that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, maybe implementing decisions that they don't agree with. They might see the bullying, they might see that the performance review is unfair, but they also see what happens to people that speak up in that culture. Sometimes the silence that you get from HR isn't because they don't care, it's because they are in survival mode too. In fact, I've had comments to my videos from people working in HR themselves who back that up. So while we have to be realistic about HR's limitations working in a toxic environment, the issue isn't usually one person in HR. It's a leadership culture which has decided that protecting the status quo is more important than protecting the staff. Understanding that doesn't solve the problem, it doesn't make it right, please hear me, but understanding it is vital context, I think, to help you plan your next move. I'm now going to share some tactics to help you take back some power and move forward. Tactic number one is power sentences. So it's really easy when you're in those meetings with HR and they're not being helpful to get emotional. It's understandable because it's your life and it's your health that's on the line right now. But let's try to move from an emotional stance to a more corporate way of speaking, a more corporate way of communicating. Here are 4 power sentences that you can use in those conversations. When they say you're too sensitive, you can say something like this: I'm not discussing my personal feelings. I am bringing forward specific documented instances of behaviour that are impacting my ability to meet the requirements of my role. When they ask for an informal chat about a serious issue, say something like this: I'm happy to discuss this, but for the sake of clarity and accurate record keeping, I'd prefer to have this conversation via email or with a written summary provided afterwards. When they push an unfair performance improvement plan, or PIP, I'd like to see the specific data points that show where my performance has deviated from the benchmarks for this role before we proceed. When they ignore a bullying complaint, since this hasn't been resolved through internal channels, can you clarify what the next formal step is in the company's grievance policy? These work because they are using HR language. You aren't being difficult, you're being precise. I'm not expecting you to go into a meeting with an iPad and read from it. I'm just trying to make sure I give you the sentences clearly. You can use those sentences either in an email, you can have them handy. Maybe you're having a conversation on Zoom, so you can have the sentences there handy, or you can prepare yourself with a version of them to use if you're in a face-to-face meeting. I just want to kind of help you have something a bit more formal, a bit clear, and to try to help you not have emotion clouding the way that you communicate in these important conversations. Tactic number 2 is the paper trail. If HR isn't acting, then documentation is your armour. It turns feelings into facts. Firstly, make sure you do your documentation on systems that aren't work systems. So not on your work computer, not on your work email. Try to keep it somewhere at home, either at your own home computer or just a notebook that you can keep at home, or your own personal phone. If you're suddenly locked out of the system, then you lose evidence. So make sure you keep it somewhere elsewhere that's private and personal to you. Use a personal notebook, a private app, or BCC, your personal email. The second rule about this is to be clinical. Don't say something vague like "he was mean." Write something that really clearly spells out what happened. At 10:15 in the team meeting, John said, "Lucy, you're not cut out for this work." The other people in the team meeting were Sarah and Fred. Note the impact of what happened. This comment delayed the project by 2 hours as I had to go back and re-verify the data or whatever it is that happened. And finally, use the follow-up strategy. After every conversation, follow up with a written communication. Thank you for the meeting. My understanding of our discussion is A, B, C, whatever it is. Please let me know if I've missed anything. If they don't reply, take that as agreement. If they try to change the story, you've got it in writing with your version of events. When you're in a toxic workplace, it's easy to believe that you're losing your mind, that you're losing your sense of self. I've seen so many of you share that your confidence has been completely eroded. When you realise HR isn't coming to save you, the dynamic shifts. It forces you to ask yourself a really difficult question. If nothing's going to change around here, is it actually time for me to leave? I built this workbook exactly for people confronting this moment. When the system won't help you, you need a clear, emotion-free system to evaluate your options and plan your next move. I'll put the link below in the pinned comment and in the description. Before you physically leave, you can start to mentally exit. I've talked in other videos about the grey rock method. Become as uninteresting as a grey rock to the people trying to get a reaction out of you. Provide the work, provide the professional updates, but stop providing them with your emotional energy. Save that for your family, your friends, your hobbies, and your future. Start building some kind of parallel life, something that exists outside the 9 to 5. Find one tiny win every single day that has nothing to do with work. Whether that's seeing a nice flower that's just emerged in a flower bed locally, having a coffee in your favourite cafe, just having a walk outside in the sunshine, and protect that win fiercely. Start viewing your current job simply as the stepping stone into your next move. Surviving a toxic workplace when the systems that are meant to help you are silent is one of the hardest things you'll ever face. But you were in control. You were documenting, you were planning, and you are moving forward, and you most certainly are not alone. Your value is not defined by a company that doesn't value you. I'd love to hear from you. What is one tiny win you've had this week to protect your peace? Let's continue to build that community of support below. I love to read the comments, and I particularly love it when people are commenting to each other and supporting each other and sharing their experiences. It genuinely proves that none of you are alone in these difficult situations. You've got a community of support who's there to help. If this video helped you feel a little less isolated, please do like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.